Good afternoon and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story that we're tracking for you. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has promised that the lockdown will not last a day longer than necessary. This came as Merkel told the parliament that lockdown extensions were important to avoid a third wave of coronavirus. She added that the fast-spreading UK variant has become a major risk. Remember, Germany has extended COVID restrictions until the 7th of March.
Alle Maßnahmen sind gemäß den Regeln unserer Demokratie.
All measures taken are based in the rules of our democracy. That makes them legal. But I know full well that as a democracy, we have a duty not to keep the restrictions in place for a day longer than it is necessary, and to lift them once they become obsolete. That is precisely the German government's goal, and I know it's also the goal of the entire German parliament.
However, the opposition accused the government of curtailing people's rights by keeping businesses shut. The German government has been facing criticism for slow vaccine rollout. The country, which is a part of the European Union, is far behind the US and the UK when it comes to inoculation programs.
Mr. President, Madam Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, the unworthy performance is going into the next round. A wheeling and dealing group of people, not foreseen by the Constitution, is deciding far-reaching restrictions in some back room, which infringe on people's lives and liberties.
DW business correspondent Janelle Dumoulin is joining us from Berlin for more on this story. Thanks for being with us. Now, Angela Merkel has told the parliament that lockdown extensions are important in order to avoid a third wave of the virus. And she addressed the fast-spreading UK variant, saying that it has become a major risk. This then doesn't necessarily mean that the lockdown will be lifted on the 7th of March.
No, it certainly does not, and that is, of course, bad news for the people here. We definitely feel lockdown fatigue setting in. People are isolated and bored. It's cold. There's nothing to do. But the flip side to all of this, of course, is that a lockdown definitely has helped slow down infections. But what's happening right now is that the criteria, that the goalposts for lifting the restrictions have shifted somewhat. So before, the conditions for lifting restrictions were that we had to get down to 50 new cases per 100,000 people within a 7-week period. We're at about 64 now, so that's really not far to go. But the new number, according to Merkel's government, is now 35 per 100,000 people in a 7-day period. And of course, the reason that criteria has become stricter are these new various virus variants that are deemed more aggressive and more transmissible. And until we can be sure that there is no third wave that is driven by these new virus variants, then further restrictions and lockdowns are definitely going to be on the cards beyond March 7.
Reginald, the German government has been facing criticism for the slow rollout of the vaccines. They are far behind the UK and the US, as an example. What is the situation with the vaccines in Germany?
Indeed, well, we've only had about 2.5 million Germans who've had their first jab so far. This obviously pales in comparison with the testing speeds that we've seen in the likes of the United Kingdom, in Israel and elsewhere. So basically what's happened here is that what the German government says anyway is that there have been problems in terms of manufacturing, that the manufacturing has been slow, that the delivery has been slow, and therefore that means that the pace of vaccinations have been slow as well.
And then, Janelle, just lastly, the opposition has accused the government of curtailing people's rights because businesses are shuttered. What is the latest on that?
Well, these criticisms have been going on for a long time, and it is true that the lockdown restrictions do sort of present a certain restriction on freedom of movement and freedom of businesses to operate. But you can also see that what's kind of happening in Germany is that there has been a mixing of the political with public health policy. For example, you have federal states that are about to go into state elections next month, and for them it might they might want to give their voters the present of a lifted lockdown, and that's why they're saying that they want to be seen as pushing for more freedom for their people. But as we know, this isn't a virus that recognizes dates. This is a public health policy problem, but I guess politicians do not really want to let go of their face when it comes to being able to reassure their voters that they are doing what they can to make sure lives go back to normal.
Janelle, thank you very much for joining us with all the latest details there coming out of Germany. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.